please explain the concept of Dhamma in English? Okay, I guess that's democracy, isn't it? I'll tell you an interesting word. I can see if anybody knows what this word is. Kakocracy. K-A-K-O. Kakocracy. And I don't know where whether they teach this in political science classes or not, but the definition of kakocracy is government by the least qualified and the most incompetent. Good word to remember, kakocracy. Okay, well this is tamocracy, or Dhamma. And as far as I know, this is a phrase coined by Ajahn Jayasaro some 30 years ago now, I guess. And I'm just trying to remember what his concept of this. I think you have to look in his works, his essays and talks and books. But you know, obviously the idea is with any kind of ocracy, it means what you take as your main basis. So democracy is the people as the basis for government, and Dhamma means obviously taking Dhamma or Dhamma as a basis. How that would work in practice, I'm not really sure, I must say, and I've not really thought this one through sufficiently. But I think that, one thing I might say is that it's worth considering what are kind of Buddhist values, or what kind of values do we want to uphold in the society. And I think we need to come to that level of values before we, as a standard, or as a reflection when we're considering different political programs, economic systems, and so on, with the idea that it's an added or important criterion. You say, well, yeah, we could do this and we could do that, maybe more jobs or more this, but how does that affect our values? And I think that kind of value analysis, that dimension, that criteria, is almost absent in this country. Certainly don't see very much Buddhist influence on the development of the country over the past 30, 40 years. So if we're talking about trust and an investigation of what really makes us happy, not what advertising tells us or tries to persuade us makes us happy. What people are telling us, that consumption makes us happy, and spending money makes us happy, and possessing things makes us happy. But if you put all that propaganda to one side just for a moment and really ask yourself a question, what really makes us happy? Or what has made me happy in the past? And what is happiness anyway? Then if we can agree that a society and its conventions and its economic system should seek as best as it can to promote the happiness of people in the country as it's truly experienced, not some idea of happiness based on ideas of consumption patterns, then that might be closer to something called Dhamma. Of course, the problem is that people are very attracted to power, and usually the people who love to have power over other people other people who, you don't want to have power over other people. So when people have a certain amount of money and they're very comfortable, then and that kind of wealth then starts to lose its ability to give kind of pleasure that you want. Many people want to find ways of increasing their power. So in a situation, politics is about power management, and so finding ways, skillful ways of distributing and allocating power so that the most unscrupulous people don't have unlimited access to power would be important in a Dhamma kind of system. So, what's the time? To be born as a human being is said to be very difficult. 1, why is this so? 2, why do we have to work hard to keep population growth in check? That's a good question, isn't it? To be born as human being is difficult because you have to at least be keeping like 5 precepts and leading a reasonably intelligent and sensitive and moral kind of life before you can create the causes and conditions to take human birth. And that's not very common. When we think about the the doubts will come. Well, look, we've got 6,000-7,000 million people in the world now, and compared with 50 years ago, population growth has exploded, and it's probably going to be like a really major issue in the next 20, 30 years. The pressure on resources, particularly water resources, is going to be huge. So doesn't that contradict what the Buddha is teaching? Well, if we, this kind of question does demand a certain acceptance of Buddhist cosmology and the Buddha's presentation of samsara and the wheel of becoming. But just in Thailand, if we say like 65 million people, but how many ants, how many mosquitoes, how many worms? So if you were to take just all the smaller creatures that you can see with your eyes, then they actually dwarf the amount of human beings. There are millions of small creatures, and these are just in the animal realm. So human beings, you compare the number of human Thai people and the number of Thai termites. I mean, I'm sure termites think we're quite an insignificant species. We can't eat wood like they can, and so not just that, but the beings in other realms, in the Preta realms, hell realms, and the other lower realms, far exceed the number of human beings. So seen within the context of the total number of sentient beings and the realms in which a being can be reborn, then human being is a difficult realm, particularly because of the particular qualifications for birth in this realm. I myself, this is speculation, and I don't have any real backing for this, but I think that this particular planet is not the only human realm. I think there are many human realms in the universe, and this is one of them. And as long as human beings are keeping 5 precepts as a very basic standard, there will always be a human realm. So even it seems quite likely that in the next 100 years human beings are going to completely destroy this planet, then that wouldn't be the end of the human realm, but the end of human existence on this particular planet. But there'll still be a human realm. So if we, again, this is speculation, if we look at the evolution of this planet from the Big Bang onwards, so at a certain point in its evolution, it fulfilled all the necessary conditions to provide a place in which human beings could live. So as a human realm appeared on this particular planet at a certain point in its evolution. But the human realm is not restricted to the human population of planet Earth. It's a realm of being. It's not in one particular place. Why do we have to work hard to keep population growth in check? Well, because if we don't, we're not going to have anywhere to live and anything to eat or drink, and it's going to be pretty miserable. That would be my answer. Okay, so I think that's enough for this morning. So any more questions from we've got another 5 minutes. Any questions from the floor? Anything you want to teach me? Oh, there's another English question here. Oh, what is this? Oh, okay. There's another couple more questions. Okay, so we've got another 5 minutes or so. I'll just answer one more question. If breaking precepts and attaining karma is based on intentions, then wouldn't that mean clumsy people and dull-witted people will get away with breaking precepts? For example, a good-hearted but lousy driver runs over cats, dogs, or even people regularly, but doesn't have any intentions of doing so and feels horrible about it. Yeah, good question. Well, I think with karma, then we can compare it with civil ordinary civil law system. That you have we have concept of what we call criminal neglect. So, in case of someone drinking alcohol and then driving, then they might run somebody over while they were drunk. And you say, well, did they intend to run somebody over? Well, they didn't. But they created the causes and conditions which made something like that very likely, and so they would be liable to prosecution and even to go to prison for being criminally negligent. So the word negligent is equivalent to the word brahmat. So kwam brahmat, would be karmically significant. Or if you're driving again and you don't bother to blow up the tires, keep the tire pressure correct, or to look after the car properly, and then it has an accident, then again you'd be responsible. So if you're acting irresponsibly, then that intention just to let things go, although it's not a direct intention to kill something, it would have a significant contributory influence, and one which would be karmically meaningful. Yeah, but the question is wrongly stated, and it says, does that mean clumsy and dull-witted people will get away? Well, they're not getting away with breaking precepts, because if their intention was to get away with something, then they would break the precept. Again, it's not this kind of reward and punishment system. There's no concept of revenge. This is one thing to be very proud of, that Thailand's not a revenge culture. You know, China has got a revenge culture. The Western world has got a revenge culture. You know, a lot of times in the Bible there's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This idea of honor can only be restored when you kill somebody who's killed your loved one. These kinds of ideas have been around in the world for generations and still cause of great pain and suffering. It's fortunate that in Buddhist societies although Buddhists sometimes want revenge and they do something, but there's no backing for it. There's no, not anywhere in the Buddhist teaching is there that kind of passage, you know, an eye for an eye kind of teaching. Okay.